My name is Casandra Buell, and I am the Director for the Lewis County Department of Planning and Community Development. And today I will be presenting to you on solar land use planning. I've broken this presentation up into 3 sections. The first section will cover solar basics, and that will include the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, the Accelerated Renewable Energy Growth and Community Protection Act, and I will cover a variety of the scales of solar development. Next, I will review on a high level the permitting and review process, local land use laws, ag districts, seeker requirements, and lastly, the county building permit policies. And then we'll wrap up by reviewing solar planning tools that are available to landowners, municipalities, and developers. So let's start with solar basics. In 2019, New York State passed the nation-leading Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. And this act increases the renewable energy standard to 70% by 2030. It's set to achieve 100% zero emission electricity by 2040 and reduce emissions at least 85% below the 1990 levels by 2050. New York State passed the nation-leading Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, also known as the Climate Act, to fight climate change at home, at work, and in our communities. In order to achieve these rigorous goals, a 22-member Climate Action Council was created, and they are preparing a scoping plan, and their committee oversees the establishment of sector-specific advisory panels and working groups, while also working in consultation with the Climate Justice Working Group and the Environmental Justice Advisory Group. Meeting information can be accessed at climate.ny.gov, and I believe that their last meeting was earlier this month. In spring 2020, New York State announced the passage of the Accelerated Renewable Energy Growth and Community Protection Act that will advance renewable energy, drive statewide economic growth, and create jobs as part of Governor Cuomo's climate agenda. As its name alludes, this act will dramatically speed up the siting and construction of clean energy projects. Draft permits are currently being developed with public comment and local community input so that complete applications are acted on within 1 year. However, in the case of certain former commercial and industrial sites, those projects will be reviewed within 6 months. Projects must still comply with local regulations unless the office determines that the regulations are unduly burdensome. Article 10 will be replaced with this new process, also known as 94C. Projects currently in the Article 10 queue can switch to this new process, and new projects between 20 and 25 megawatts will be able to opt into this 94C process. The newly created Office of Renewable Energy Siting will be housed within the Department of State and will consolidate the environmental review of major renewable energy facilities and will provide a single forum to ensure that siting decisions are predictable, responsible, and delivered in a timely manner, along with opportunities for input from local communities. This act also created a Clean Energy Resources Development and Incentives Program that will be administered by NYSERDA, who has already begun working with its state partners in state and local communities to rapidly advance build-ready projects, prioritizing the development of existing or abandoned commercial sites, brownfields, landfills, former industrial sites, and abandoned or underutilized sites. From recent conversations, it appears that the sites over 55 acres could be considered for this program. The act also ensures that host communities benefit from this renewable energy development. NYSERDA is developing a host community benefit program as part of its Build Ready initiative, and this will offer property owners and communities with tangible benefits and incentives for hosting these projects. It also creates a new program that, as part of the Public Service Commission, will provide utility bill discounts or other environmental benefits or compensation for the benefit of residents and host communities. Communities will have the opportunity to participate in this new siting process and will have access to intervenor funds, just as they did with Article 10. Scales of solar. On-site solar facilities consume the energy produced on-site. This is relative to small roof or ground-mounted systems for residential, business, or agricultural uses. And these solar energy systems are typically exempt from the rigorous review process in a lot of municipal zoning laws. These energy projects are capped at 100% of the property owner's usage. For off-site solar projects, the energy produced is sent to the grid for consumption off-site. And two facets of off-site solar include community solar, which is less than 5 megawatt, or utility scale solar, which is more than 5 megawatt. Let's go over a few solar basics of these scales of solar. Community solar projects take advantage of NYSERDA's New York Sun Community Solar Incentives. To qualify for this incentive, individual projects must be 5 megawatt or less, but may be grouped together in a series of arrays less than or equal to 5 megawatt. The project sells energy to local subscribers and provide the local taxing jurisdictions with pilot agreements ranging from $2,000 to $5,000. However, Lewis County's local IDA's pilot rates start at $5,500 per megawatt for the use of prime actively farmed land. The pilot rate becomes more attractive to developers who pursue idle and/or lower quality soil types. I recommend looking at their website and checking out the entirety of their UTEP policy for more information on these pilot rates. For utility scale solar projects, they sell energy to the grid at wholesale prices and are subsidized by the scale of renewable energy credits. While any solar project exceeding 5 megawatt is considered utility scale, we generally see these projects begin around 20 megawatt, and they could exceed even 200 megawatt. A few examples of both scales of solar within Lewis County include the town of Lowville's community solar project with the developer US Light Energy. They proposed a 8 megawatt project, which was a grouping of 2 solar array projects into one on Waters Road, and they expect this to be installed in spring 2021. This project is approximately 3 megawatt, and they expect to install that in spring of 2021. For utility scale solar projects, there are a few known Article 10 projects in the works that have surpassed the PIP stage. Now, Geronimo Energy, the developer in both instances, is likely to move over to the 94C process because of the accelerated completion of the permit. While they have not confirmed that, that is an expectation. The Geronimo Energy project in New Bremen is expected to be 100 megawatt, and the Geronimo Energy project in the town of Croghan that also spills over into the town of Wilna, they have dubbed that the Sugar Maple Solar Project. That will be approximately 125 megawatt. For permitting and review, let's start with identifying whether or not solar is allowed in the area for the proposed action. Then we will move on to a high-level overview of local municipal land use review. We'll assess possible agricultural impacts and how they can be mitigated. We'll discuss the seeker process, and we will end with the county building permit. So starting at square one, is solar allowed in the zone? Municipalities have a variety of land use tools that can help them better plan for large-scale solar energy systems, like overlay zones, floating zones, site plan regulations, special use permits, and environmental review requirements. Two common tools that many municipalities already utilize in their current zoning laws are site plan review and special use permits. Special use permits may be used to impose conditions that mitigate adverse impacts on the most valuable or productive ag land. The solar development could be conditionally permitted within that zone, and the special use permitting process is used to carefully examine the impact before granting approval if the project meets certain criteria. The site plan regulations are also used to limit the adverse impact of permitted solar energy systems on farming operations. The site plan is a drawing that shows the layout, arrangement, and design of a land use proposal. It can be used to verify that details of the project, such as setbacks or overhead line regulations, are met. It could even be used to identify possible alternative arrangements to further mitigate potential adverse impacts, such as the relocation of overhead lines, or even moving a driveway entrance a little bit to the left or right, or proposing an entirely new driveway entrance at a better identified location. It's important to note that application fees may be applicable and to check with the local municipality as to what those fees could be. As we reviewed earlier in this presentation, the local municipality will be able to cite projects and handle that citing process if the particular project is not applicable to Article 10 or 94C. So the project sponsor has to comply with site plan review and or special use permit requirements as detailed in their local land use or zoning laws. If the project is applicable towards Article 10 or 94C, the state reviews projects that meet or exceed the 25 megawatt threshold. Under 94C, this could also include 25 megawatt and up. So the new office will apply local standards to projects unless they are unreasonably burdensome. It's very important that municipalities contact the local IDA to notify them of a potential pilot agreement that could come with these solar developments. The reasoning is with our local Lewis County IDA UTEP policy, there are benefits for the developer to develop on marginal farmland as opposed to prime farmland or tillable farmland. And those changes would be beneficially made in the beginning of the process rather than the tail end of the process after the municipality has approved the project, after the county planning board has reviewed the project. It's beneficial for all parties involved to discuss those arrangements ahead of the final land use approval. If applicable to General Municipal Law 239M, applications for certain projects are sent to the county planning board for review and recommendations prior to the municipality able to make the final decision. If the proposed action site is within 250 feet of a municipal boundary, a county right-of-way of a stream or drainage channel, a boundary of county or state-owned land with a public building, a county or state road, a county or state park or rec area, a boundary of a farm operation within an ag district, it would have to come before the county planning board prior to the final decision being made by the municipality. The Lewis County Planning Board meets on the third Thursday of every month to review referred projects from municipalities within Lewis County if they are subject to those general municipal law guidelines. A technical review is provided by the planning department staff who, along with addressing local land use laws, assess the proposed project's countywide or intercommunity impacts, such as the compatibility with adjacent uses, community services, signage, drainage, parking, traffic generation and effect, protection of community character, lighting, and landscaping and screening. Members of the planning board then take the technical review and make a recommendation to the municipal board. In September of 2020, the Lewis County Board of Legislators, through Resolution 225 of 2020, recommended that the Lewis County Planning Board consider utility-scale solar projects to have county-wide impacts and to review such proposals in light of potential impacts to ag land, watersheds, and visual impacts. The legislators are in favor of smart solar development and in no way want to tell the farmers how to manage their property. This resolution does not regulate the use of land. It simply provides guidance so that both ag and renewable energy systems can coexist effectively. Here's an example of why we need to address screening and landscaping with these projects. As you can see, there is a security fence along the right-of-way with the appropriate signage warning any bypassers of the danger. If you look inside the fencing, there are dead trees, which serve no screening purpose whatsoever inside the fence and dead. This is another reason why it's important to properly plan the appropriate screening that's used and the appropriate location of the screening that's used. Here's an example of what a solar developer would provide a community to address possible visual impacts. As you can see, they've provided a line of a variety of evergreen trees, as well as low standing shrubs that would cover or screen the trunk area of the trees. Another idea is to use an earth berm. An earth berm would significantly decrease the visual impacts of the solar panels with the additional trees added on the top for additional screening throughout the year. Ag districts. As you may know, Lewis County has one ag district, and that's Ag District number 6. The purpose of ag districts is to protect and promote the availability of land for farming purposes. And for that reason, the County Planning Board and New York State Department of Ag and Markets heavily focus on the use of large portions of ag land within the ag district or bordering land in the ag district. And they typically focus on the amount of land that will be disturbed that identify with 1 to 4 classified soils and the groupings of 1 to 4. As you know, ag land is typically targeted for solar development because it is cleared, flat land, and it's near those transmission lines. So it's all about location and the ease of installation. New York State Department of Ag and Markets may be an interested agency in the seeker process and may become an involved agency depending on the nature of the impact. They may enact the certain regulations or review processes like a penalty for the conversion of land to non-ag uses, and then a notice of intent would apply to installations that are primarily intended for off-farm use and are specific to government actions. Farmland protection plans may also provide specific recommendations for conserving lands. So permitting and review and the seeker process. The seeker process is difficult to navigate as a whole. The good thing about solar projects is typically they're designed to mitigate environmental impacts. Most solar projects in New York Sun's commercial and industrial programs are 2 to 5 megawatt AC ground mounted systems that require approximately 5 acres per megawatt. These systems tend to be located in rural areas like ours on flat to gently sloping farmland, but due to the limited area of impact associated with solar panel support structures, much of that land can be maintained as grasslands between and beneath the panels. We've also heard of instances or studies where some forms of ag use can continue with sheep grazing or honeybee farms. Solar developers are incentivized to avoid significant impacts to wetlands, threatened and endangered species, habitats, and archaeological historical sites. They do not require lighting, water, or sewer services, and they do not increase population. So community services provided by the county, state, or community should not be impacted by these projects. While the environmental impacts are avoided by design, municipalities must work to ensure land use compatibility, protection of agricultural lands, and visual impacts. Under current seeker regulations, commercial ground-mounted solar projects are considered unlisted or Type 1 actions. In 2019, however, the New York State DEC amended seeker to include certain solar developments that would fall under Type 2. Installation of solar arrays with 25 acres or less of physical alteration on closed landfills, brownfield sites, an inactive waste disposal site with full liability release, or a COC, currently disturbed areas at publicly owned wastewater treatment facilities, or areas zoned for industrial use, or parking lots or garages are now Type 2 actions that require no further processing under seeker. Solar energy arrays on an existing structure are now considered Type 2 actions as long as the structure is not eligible for, listed on, or located within a district listed in the National or State Register of Historical Places. Always refer to the Type 2 action list for further information and clarification. Unlisted actions represent the largest category of actions under seeker review. Therefore, they may require interpretation of regulation because not every project is cut and dry. The interpretation is at the discretion of the lead agency and involved agencies. However, because these interpretations can be legally challenged, refer to the seeker handbook for guidance or seek legal counsel if necessary. Unlisted actions are less likely to have a significant adverse impact, but it does not imply that they will not. Review of unlisted actions may proceed using a short or full environmental assessment form. It is at the reviewing agency's discretion. Type 1 actions are likely to have at least one significant adverse environmental impact. These actions are listed within the seeker regulations or can be listed within involved agency's seeker procedures. The list of Type 1 actions contain numeric thresholds, and any action that qualifies or exceeds one or more of the thresholds will automatically be deemed a Type 1 action, which requires the completion of a full environmental assessment form. The lead agency is responsible for completing parts 2 and 3 of the environmental assessment form, and some documentation may be helpful for completing these portions of the seeker. Some things that you can request that the developer include is a wetland delineation report, threatened and endangered species habitat assessment, cultural resources survey, visual impact assessment, or a farmland protection strategy. Some more helpful tools include the New York State DEC EAF Mapper program or the Environmental Resource Mapper. So Lewis County building permit. Once a land use permit is approved by the host municipality, the project sponsor needs to obtain a building permit. In 2017, Lewis County passed a local law adopting the New York State Expedited Unified Solar Permit process for small-scale solar electric systems. Small-scale grid-tied solar photovoltaic installation systems less than or equal to 25 kilowatt DC are required to submit a universal solar permit application. This submission should include a completed unified solar permit for small-scale solar electric systems eligibility checklist, 2 sets of site plans, 1-line or 3-line electrical diagrams, specification sheets for all manufactured components. All diagrams or plans prepared by a PE, and the universal solar permit application along with a permit fee of $100. For commercial solar energy projects exceeding 25 kilowatt, in 2018, the Lewis County Board of Legislators passed a resolution authorizing the Lewis County Building and Codes Department to amend the commercial building permit application to include commercial solar projects. Solar array fields up to $100,000 in value will pay a fee of $300. If the value of the solar arrays exceed $100,000, there will be a $2 charge for each additional $1,000 in value. So let's review some of the planning tools that can be used by landowners, by municipalities, and by developers. Some great tools that are provided by Lewis County can be found on the Lewis County Planning Department page and the Lewis County GIS system. The Lewis County Planning Department page includes municipal laws, example solar laws, municipal zoning maps, and Ag District 6 information. Furthermore, the Lewis County Real Property Department is in charge of the GIS system. And it is a very user-friendly system that is completely free to the public to use. And it has great layers for zoning, for planned solar sites, currently and prospective solar sites, and wetland and ag district layers. For New York State, they obviously, are trying to make sure that all the tools are available for anyone to use. So the New York State DEC has this great environmental assessment form mapper program that's available on their website, as well as an environmental resource mapper. NYSERDA offers a wonderful New York solar guidebook, and it reviews pilots, model solar energy laws, decommissioning examples. It reviews the seekers specific for solar, New York State Real Property Law 487 regarding the tax exemptions of these renewable energy systems. And it also has a section on solar and ag districts. New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets supplies a really great document, guidelines for solar energy projects and the construction for agricultural lands. It's a really great tool for developers to use and for municipalities to kind of hold their feet to the fire on those standards. Lastly, the USDA offers a web soil survey tool, and the soil data and information produced by the National Cooperative Soil Survey. And each state is responsible for populating the soils database for all counties within that state. A yearly refresh of the official soil survey database usually takes place annually at the beginning of October. These soil surveys can be used by municipalities and developers before and during the review process. Now I will take you through some of these tools to give you a firsthand perspective on how to use them. We're going to start with Lewis County. To find and navigate to the planning department page, you simply click on departments, click on the P if it's not already in your favorites. If you click on planning, it'll take you right to our page. As you can see, we have all of our contact information at the top. We have a description of the county planning board and how that process works. Our county planning board dates are available for you. Some resources are the environmental assessment forms. We also have model municipal solar laws and various literature on solar development in the North Country. We also have information regarding Ag District number 6, Ag District maps, and our Lewis County Ag Enhancement Plan, which can also be used as a tool for solar development. As you can see, we have an extensive list of all of the municipal land use regulations. So if you're looking to see if it's an allowed use, you can check out all of the various municipal laws, and zoning maps are available. But to make the zoning clearer for you, you can simply access our GIS system on the cloud here. And there's certain layers that you can utilize to identify what the zone is, and from there, if it's an allowed use. So if you access the Lewis County maps under zoning and land use, if you just turn off this little administrative boundary toggle, you'll be able to identify which zone this is. As you can see, the zoning name for this one is Rural Residential, Town of Watson. You'll see that this is the agricultural residential zone in the town of Harrisburg. Just giving you a few examples of how to read this information. And this one is forested land in the town of Gregg. Just another tool you can use to identify exactly which zone you might be in. Here you'll be able to identify a variety of information based upon what layers you request. So here you can add Lewis County tillable soils, tillable parcel data. That is information that the IDA uses for their pilots. You'd also be able to add some wetland layers if you wanted to. And then there is a layer for Ag District 6. So if you check that, all of the area that is, or all of the parcels that are highlighted in the dark green are within the Lewis County Ag District. So again, that's just another tool that you can use. You can see if you take off those tillable that you'll see the entirety of the Ag District there. Moving on to the EAF mapper, you'll see that you need to turn off all of your pop-up blockers. That's imperative for the use of this program. So I'm going to just identify a county-owned property for example purposes. So I'm just going to use the DSS PSB site. So I'm just going to type in the address in this field. And if you hit locate, it'll take you to that address. If you zoom in, you should be able to select the tax map parcel number, or you have the option to draw the project site. So here I've identified the tax map parcel number. And let's say we want to create a short form. And again, that criteria will be up to the lead agency. Simply click OK, wait for it. Does take a few minutes to compile. And again, this information, it will not be a complete form, but it will give the municipalities a tool to verify the information that was provided by the developer. And it could also be used by the developer to identify federal regulated wetlands, if it's in a critical environmental area. There's several criteria that it is able to identify simply by using the tax map parcel number information. While we are waiting for that, I will move on to the environmental resource mapper. And this is another great tool that I use to check out the wetlands that may be regulated in the area. So I'm going to use, let's use the same address. So 5274 Outer Stowe Street, Belleville. Okay, and it's going to pop up. So I'm going to bring that up, and then I'm going to play with my layers. I'm going to add some layers so that I can identify some of the basic hydrology or rare plants and animals, base flood elevations. So nothing really definitive is showing up here. If I go to other wetland layers for National Wetlands Inventory, it'll bring that up, and if you click on that, it'll identify it as a riverine. And this one over here is, looks like a shrub wetland, and you can click on these for further details. So I want to make sure that my project doesn't overlie one of these natural resources, these protected natural resources. So I turned on the tax parcel layer so I can identify, exactly what's within that parcel. So as you can see here, they do have a riverine going through the parcel. I'm going to print that off with my tools, and all you have to do is press print. You can identify the title of the document you want to print, put your information in there, and print the map, and it shows up as a pop-up. So I see that, backtracking, I see that my EAF mapper is ready to view. So as you see, it took a few minutes to develop, but it will pop up when it is ready. So I did a short environmental assessment form for this, and it'll give you answers to some of the questions on the EAF mapper if it's available for that particular location. So for instance, it says, does this site of the proposed action contain any species of animal or associated habitats listed on the state or federal government as in threatened endangered species? No. So I can use that as a municipality to verify the information that's submitted by the developer, or if I'm a developer, I can use this to answer questions outside of my scope. From here, let's check out what the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets has provided us on their website. They have a great document for the guidelines for solar energy projects right on their website, and it gives detail about some of the guidance for cohabitating these renewable energy systems on farmland. The USDA Web Soil Survey is a really great tool that a lot of our developers do utilize. So as you can see, you just have to, the first thing you have to do is to identify an area of interest, which will be your project site essentially. So I'm just going to keep zooming in here. And then I'm going to go and type in the address. So 5274 Outer Stowe Street. All right, so it has taken me to that location, and I am going to use I'm just going to create a custom polygon here for the soils that I want to identify in this area. Finish creating a polygon, and when I want to close the polygon, I double tap. So now I am creating an area of interest specific to what I want to view that could be affected, the soils that could be affected from this solar project. So the next step is to create a soil map. So once this populates, it should identify all of the soils and where they are on the area that I've asked them to. And now I'm going to create a printable version, and you can title it any way you want, and you view and you print it. So it's great. Or you can add it to your shopping cart. And then when you go to check out, it's free service. It's really just a procedural thing. It gives you a complete list of all of the information regarding the soils data that you need. And I want to hit get it now. And again, this is just another tool you can use to verify the site soils, because as I said, ag and markets in the county are really concerned with soils classified 1 through 4. So here you will see that you will again get the soil map of the area that you've identified, and you will get an entire breakdown of how much the percentage of soils on that area of interest, along with all the rest of the good information. So again, I want to thank you for listening to this, and if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to give our office a call. My name is Cassandra Buell. I am the Director of the Lewis County Planning Department and Community Development, and my email address is provided, and my phone number is 315-376-5919. Thank you.